A couple weeks ago, Pokemon streamer and esteemed Nuzlocker pChal made a video creating a tier list of every encounter you can get while doing a Nuzlocke of Pokemon FireRed and Leaf Green, ranking them on their viability. But just a couple days ago, I stumbled across this video on my YouTube homepage. A smaller YouTuber named Real Bucko tried to Nuzlocke Pokemon FireRed using only the Pokemon that pChal ranked in C tier and F tier. Now, the title of my video might have given it away, but our hero tragically failed to complete the challenge just as it seemed like it had finally gotten past the worst of it. He couldn't prove pChal wrong in the end. I, however, have a few things going for me that might give me an edge over Bucko for this challenge, such as unemployment and undiagnosed autism, to name a couple. I was determined to finish what Real Bucko started. For this challenge, I'll be playing with the usual hardcore Nuzlocke rules, but with the addition that I can only use Pokemon in the bottom tiers of pChal's tier list. So let's do it. Let's see if it really is possible to complete a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon FireRed with the worst encounters in the game. Now let's finally get into it. Charmander got placed in F tier since it gets rolled by the first two gym leaders and gives your rival the most challenging team by the end game, but Ibuprofen here is determined to prove otherwise. The beginning of this run is like any other. Beat the rival, give Oak his package, make Mankey eligible to be on the endangered species list, and start heading towards Viridian Forest. Okay, so not exactly like any other run. There isn't a single encounter we can get before the second gym, so Ibuprofen has a serious uphill battle to fight. To even stand a chance, we need to do a little EV training. I'm not going to explain EV training in depth in this video, but basically we're raising Ibuprofen's attack stat by taking a page out of Frieza's book.
Hello, monkeys!
After learning Metal Claw, we have everything we need to have a chance at beating Brock. So it'll have to go something like this. Since Brock's lead Geodude isn't much of a threat, we can pretty freely use Metal Claw to fish for an attack boost. We generally get 3 shots at it, but even still it's only a 10% chance each time. Either way, Onix is gonna come in next. This freak actually knows a Rock-type move in Rock Tomb, which will easily 2-shot Lil Ibuprofen, though only having 80 accuracy does give us a glimmer of hope. Of course, that's only true if he actually uses Rock Tomb. It seems like Brock's AI has some kind of quirk or something, because oftentimes he just uses Tackle or Bind instead. I'm not sure exactly why it happens, but what I do know is that after a few attempts, Ibuprofen pulls through and takes down the first major hurdle of the run. Now seems like a good time to be transparent and mention that I did save before the first 2 gym leaders and just went back to the save point after every failed attempt. I wasn't trying to sit here and spend days training up Charmander after Charmander, killing a billion Mankeys every time just to wipe to a battle that's heavily stacked against me. Trust me when I say that Brock was just a warm-up. I avoid as many trainers as possible on the next route and Mount Moon, but even still, Ibuprofen has evolved into Charmeleon by the time Cerulean City is within our sights. In my predecessor's attempts, he claimed that it was impossible to defeat Misty with just a Charmeleon. But is that really true? Yes, our resources are limited, but there's a couple things we can utilize to give us even just the smallest chance of winning, and it all starts with these 2 dudes right outside of Mount Moon. The move tutors for Mega Punch and Mega Kick. Mega Kick in particular is vital, as a 120 base power move is stronger than anything else we can get up to this point. After teaching it to Charmeleon, as well as Mega Punch, because why not, we can press on to Cerulean. We aren't quite ready for Misty yet, so first, let's kick our rival's teeth in real quick. The lead Pidgeotto and his starter Squirtle are the only real threats here. Squirtle obviously has a type advantage, but if Pidgeotto goes for Sand Attack, things can become very shaky. Thankfully, Pidgeotto only goes for a quick attack before going down. Squirtle comes in right away, but Mega Kick is already proving its worth as it does over half of the turtle's HP. A withdrawal means that another one won't quite KO. Oh, never mind. Well, next is Abra, who literally can't do anything, so a couple of Embers take out both Abra and the following Rattata. 1 down, 1 to go. After battling through Nugget Bridge, Ibuprofen has hit the level cap, so there's only one option for us now. I give Ibuprofen a Person Berry to hold before approaching the greatest challenge of the run. Misty leads with Staryu. This is the easy part of the battle, as it goes down in a single Mega Kick and gives us enough XP to even level up mid-fight. And now for the real problem. Starmie. There was only one way I could find to beat this fight, and it goes like this. Starmie always starts with a Water Pulse, but barring a crit, Ibuprofen can live 1 hit, and with the Person Berry we don't need to worry about getting confused. This means we can always follow up with a Smoke Screen. Mega Kick requires 2 hits or a crit to take Starmie down, so we have to bank on 2 misses from Starmie, along with 2 hits from Ibuprofen. If I did the math right, it's close to a 9% chance of success. Look, I never said it was a consistent plan, but the point is, it's possible. And with a lot of luck and 39 resets worth of patience, we might just be able to pull it off. With Misty defeated, the next section of the game should be smooth sailing. The 5 trainers on Nugget Bridge are cleared, so that just leaves the disguised Rocket Grunt after, 4 more undodgeable trainers on the way to Bill, the other Rocket Grunt who stole the Dig TM, 1 more trainer— whoa, what was that? Shit. Despite my best efforts to cut as many corners as possible, Ibuprofen just has too many trainers to fight alone before over-leveling Surge's level cap. I even went into Brock under-leveled, but it still wasn't enough. So, unfortunately, it seems like it is impossible to beat Pokemon FireRed with only the worst encounters. But that would be such a lame ending. A level cap? Really? That's what makes this Nuzlocke impossible? Fuck that. Ibuprofen worked his ass off to beat Brock and Misty on his own, and it would be a crime to just call it quits there. I decided that to continue on with the run, I'll fight the bare minimum number of trainers before I can get a new encounter, and then box Ibuprofen until he's viable again. This amounted to 4 trainers in total. 1 on Route 6, a rival battle on the SSN, which, despite evolving Abra and Rattata, was pretty much the same as the one in Cerulean, and then 2 more random trainers on Route 9 after getting the HM for Cut. Finally, in Rock Tunnel, we can catch the second available Pokemon of the run, Tylenol the Machop, getting us back on track for this Nuzlocke. To help Tylenol reach the level cap of 24, I end up using the Dig TM that we got from the Grunt on him, as well as the Brick TM that we found on the SSN. The last thing I do before finally challenging Surge is I intentionally get Machop poisoned by a wild Oddish. This not only activates Tylenol's Guts ability, but also prevents him from getting paralyzed in the process. Now, we're ready. The battle itself is easy enough, as a Guts boosted Brick Break is enough to one-shot Voltorb who only gets off a Screech, and KO Pikachu through an evasion buff from Double Team. All that's left is Raichu, who does set up a Double Team as Tylenol uses Dig. A second Double Team makes me start to wonder if poisoning Machop was actually a death sentence, but Tylenol puts my worries at ease as he lands a Dig and easily one-shots. Okay, did not account for Raichu surviving that. A Super Potion gets Raichu back to about 80% of its health, but evasion be damned, Tylenol lands a follow-up Brick Break to kill the fat rat. That was nearly a disaster, but with the Thunder Badge, we officially, for the first time in the run, have 2 usable team members under the new level cap of 29. We head back to Rock Tunnel and make our way through with no close calls whatsoever, and after Tylenol reaches his final C-tiered form, head directly into Celadon where our next encounter awaits. Porygon is locked behind a 9,999 coin paywall, but that doesn't deter me. Through hard work, grit, and dedication, I claw my way to 9,999 coins and claim my prize, Claritin the Porygon. All that's left now is to train up the team in preparation for Erica, who ends up being pretty easy. A combination of Psybeam from Claritin and Embers from Ibuprofen, along with some held berries to help them out, makes short work of the 4th gym leader, granting us another badge and a massive level cap of level 43, meaning over-leveling is a thing of the past. But we're not done in Celadon yet. You see, real Bucko's furthest run ended at the hands of Giovanni in the hidden base beneath the game corner after a series of unlucky critical hits. This fight now isn't just to progress the game's story, it's to take this torch that I got from a guy on the internet who I've never met and race it across the finish line, to avenge someone who gave his all in trying to defy expectations. This fight is for you, Bucko. Tylenol starts by expertly dodging a rock throw and retaliating with a huge Brick Break that leaves Onix in the red. Rage from Onix does pitiful damage as Tylenol finishes the job. Rhyhorn comes in and fares no better than Onix as he takes a massive chunk of damage just to lower our speed with Scary Face. Though with the speed drop, Rhyhorn does outspeed and goes for another Scary Face and goes down moments later. Just 1 Pokemon left, Kangaskhan. Tylenol is definitely slower after Rhyhorn's antics, but with almost all of his health remaining, I'm confident that he takes at least 1 attack. Kangaskhan and Machoke trade blows, leaving me with a tough decision to make. If Kangaskhan crits her next Mega Punch, Tylenol goes down. However, I don't really have anything that can switch in on a Mega Punch. My best shot at this is to click Brick Break again and hope I dodge a crit. Or she can just use Bite and die to Brick Break. A bit anticlimactic given the whole narrative I was working with, but we take those. With the Sylph Scope in hand, I teach Clarendon Shockwave in preparation for the rival fight in Pokemon Tower, though it ends up being a breeze. On the next floor, we find our next team member, Cubone. Robitussin here learns what may as well be Earthquake at level 25, so she's gonna be a huge asset going forward. The rest of the tower is uneventful, but getting the flute from Fuji opens up a ton of new encounters. Beyond the Snorlax on Route 12, we can pick up the Super Rod and use it to get Zyrtec the Horsey on that same route. And we can go back to Route 6 to fish up Excedrin the Psyduck. Both of them evolve into Seadra and Golduck respectively, and also means we now have a full team of 6, and it only took us half of the game. Heading towards Fuchsia, we immediately find Pepto-Bismol the Ditto on Route 15. This is the last time you'll see Pepto. Once we finally make it to Fuchsia City, we can get the Good Rod and use it to fish up Origel the Goldeen, who gets put in the box for now. There's one more encounter available to us, on Route 18. If we go upstairs in the connecting building, there's a man looking for Golduck in exchange for a Lickitung. I caught a second Golduck to trade here, so we'll still be using Excedrin while also claiming... Mark. My favorite over-the-counter medicine. With encounters done and out of the way, we can head back to Saffron City and start making our way through Silphco, evolving Ibuprofen into Mr. F-tier himself along the way. These rocket grunts are the calm before the storm though, as we have 4 big boss fights coming up pretty much back to back. The first and arguably scariest of them is another encounter with our rival F-tier, who actually poses a challenge since he has some fully evolved Pokemon now. As always though, he leads with Pidgeot, so I start with Claritin. A wing attack does light damage as Claritin responds with a shockwave that zaps the bird below half health. Rinse and repeat, and Claritin is left at half health when Pidgeot goes down. Our rival sends out Growlithe next, and I want to stay in with Claritin and go for recover, but instead opt to send in Zyrtec to play around a Flame Wheel crit. Zyrtec takes little from the resisted hit, but Growlithe manages to snag a burn. It ultimately doesn't mean much though, since an unnecessary crit from Surf wipes out Growlithe's entire lineage. Executes next, so swap to Ibuprofen seems free, and sure enough, it is, and a flamethrower is more than enough to do the job. As Blastoise hits the field though, it's clear that Charizard needs to switch out, but as I look at my team, I realize I really don't have much to hit it with. That's when I see my out. My best play here is actually to switch into Excedrin, who eats a crit water gun as he comes in. Golduck won't do much damage to Blastoise, but the opposite is also true. Since our rival here has seemingly never taught his Blastoise a new move, its best attack to hit us with is Bite. So I take this opportunity to screech Blastoise all the way down to -6 defense, and then swap to Tylenol on what I thought would be a resisted bite, but actually ends up being a Protect instead, which works even better. After another turn of stalling, a single water gun is all Blastoise manages to get off before Tylenol crushes him with a Brick Break. The last Pokemon is Alakazam, who goes for Future Sight as Ibuprofen comes in. A wing attack nearly snags the KO, but narrowly misses as Alakazam goes for Calm Mind. Thankfully though, it seems like F-tier doesn't use potions in this fight since Alakazam just goes down to one more wing attack the next turn, winning us the toughest fight we've had in quite a while. After a quick heal and this grunt I always forget about, we're once again face to face with Giovanni. This time we actually have water types, making the start of this fight much easier. Well, Nidorino isn't a ground type, but nonetheless it still just falls to a couple of surfs. Nidoqueen comes in to receive the same treatment before the dreaded Kangaskhan once again hits the field. Fearing a Mega Punch, Zyrtec gets swapped out for Tylenol. Kangaskhan, however, just goes for a Tail Whip. Even with lower defense, I'm confident that Machoke can take a crit Mega Punch and retaliate with a Brick Break. Though given how much damage Mega Punch does here, it looks like it would have been a close call. But nevertheless, Tylenol lives to fire off a Brick Break, dealing great damage to the ruiner of Nuzlocke. Giovanni, in his infinite wisdom, goes for Rage as I switch into Robitussin. I'm convinced he's just clicking buttons at this point. Kangaskhan's Rage builds as she gets pummeled by Bone Meringue, though I guess I'd be mad too if my trainer played like this. With Kangaskhan down, Giovanni's last Pokemon is Rhyhorn. A missed Bone Meringue gives Rhyhorn the opportunity to stomp. Damage continues to mount as Rhyhorn survives the falling Bone Meringue and lands 3 hits of Rock Blast. I then channel my inner Giovanni apparently, and use the objectively wrong move in Bone Club, which is both weaker and less accurate than Bone Meringue, and proceed to miss said Bone Club. Rhyhorn takes this opportunity to fire off another Rock Blast. I impatiently sped up through the animation, but it not only hit 5 times, but also crit 2 of the hits as well, leaving Robitussin with just 9 HP. That was quite the wake-up call. I swap into Excedrin, who also nearly dies to a 5-hit Rock Blast, but a 100% accurate Surf guarantees that the beast goes down. To say that was a close call would be an understatement, and it made me realize 2 things. First, Robitussin isn't doing nearly as much damage as I need her to. but more importantly, I need to slow down and take these battles a bit more seriously. Otherwise, I'm going to end up losing a team member, and at that point, it'll be too late. While that issue might require therapy, the former has an easy remedy, as we can take a quick stop back in Lavender and use Thief on Wild Cubones in Pokemon Tower until we get a Thick Club. That means the next big fight is against Sabrina. She opens with a Kadabra, so I send in... Wait, Mark? Yeah, I figured Tylenol wasn't going to be much help against the Psychic Gym, so he was left in the box to give Mark the chance to make his big debut. A Reflect is unfortunate to see, especially since Mark would have one-shot with Strength had it not gone up, but that just means he can snag the KO on the next turn, though not before Kadabra launches off a Future Sight. Mr. Mime is next, and a Fast Barrier along with the lingering Reflect really nerfs Mark's Strength. As Mr. Mime sets up yet another barrier, I thought to use Wrap to get some consistent damage going, but of course, Mark misses. And after tanking a Psybeam, he misses a second one too. At least Reflect finally goes down. A Baton Pass jump scare makes me think Alakazam's about to come in to ruin my day, but it's actually Venomoth who's gonna learn that it'll be a cold day in hell before Mark misses 3 wraps in a row. Venomoth tries to Supersonic, but gets absolutely marked when Untempo negates it. Now, fair warning, that was the last turn for a while that a semi-competent player will be at the wheel, because instantaneous brain rot is the only explanation I can think of for what happens in the next few turns. At this point, I should just swap into Charizard to hit Venomoth with Flamethrower and call it a day, ignoring the defense buffs entirely. Instead, I decide to stay in and watch these two slap each other with wet noodles for several turns. But now that Venomoth's in healing range, I finally decide that it's time to switch. I go into my party, scroll past the Charizard with Flamethrower, and instead decide that Robitussin is the move. Psybeam confuses Robitussin on the switch, but she breaks through and lands a Rock Tomb for less than half of Venomoth's health. My dumbass had already forgotten about the defense boost from Baton Pass and was genuinely flabbergasted when Rock Tomb did so little. Like, I literally checked Marowak's summary here to confirm that she's indeed holding the Thick Club. But at least the confusion makes me think to switch out, right? Nope. I just decide to send it again, and Robitussin breaks through again, and Rock Tomb misses, and lands directly on my skull instead, finally reminding me that I have a whole ass Charizard in the back. Ibuprofen takes next to no damage from a Psybeam on the switch, and Flamethrower one-shots the following turn. This should have happened like 8 turns ago. The allegedly S-tier Mr. Mime comes back in, but a timely crit Flamethrower from the allegedly F-tier Charizard wipes the Mime out. Sabrina's last Pokemon is Alakazam, which immediately sets up a Calm Mind, cushioning the blow from Ibuprofen's Flamethrower. A +1 Psychic from Alakazam will do a lot to Charizard and might even kill outright, but it's not like the rest of my team takes it any better. Sabrina, though, also loves to get greedy, so it's possible that she's just going to use Calm Mind again, at which point I would definitely lose if I don't take her out now. I decide to go for the kill, and as predicted, Alakazam goes for a second Calm Mind, but falls to a Wing Attack before he even gets the chance to take advantage of it. Thank God I pulled it together after that whole Venomoth debacle, because otherwise this could have been disastrous. After shaking off the brain rot, I head right to Gogo, who has the same level cap as Sabrina. This fight starts off with Claritin spamming Psychic to knock out the lead Coughing, Muck, and the second Coughing all back to back. Weezing is Koga's final Pokemon, and this one might actually be able to do something. Weezing outspeeds Claritin and hits a Sludge for solid damage. Psychic comes painfully close to a one-shot, but falls just short. I know that Koga's going for a potion here, so I decide to use Thunder Wave as he does. While Claritin could potentially stay in and 1v1 the Weezing now that it outspeeds, all it would take is a Sludge crit or an Explosion to ruin my day. Explosion is especially scary, so I decide that the physically bulky Robitussin is my best shot. I get caught off guard when Koga uses a full heal to cure the paralysis, but it ultimately just led to a free switch, so no complaints here. Toxic connects onto Robitussin as she responds with a Rock Tomb to lower Weezing's speed once again. Now we can outspeed and nail Weezing with a Strength, dealing a decent amount of damage. Unfortunately, Weezing goes for Smokescreen, which causes Marowak's subsequent Strength to miss and gives Weezing the opportunity to use Sludge. That, coupled with the mounting poison damage, brings us to a scary position that forces me to switch out. I bring in Excedrin on yet another Smokescreen. With Marowak so low, I'm pretty sure that an Explosion from Weezing would secure Koga a kill on any one of my Pokemon, so switching out is a big risk. Instead, I trust in Excedrin and go for Surf, which connects and even crits to defuse that bomb and win us our 6th gym badge. Now that we can use Surf outside of battle, we make our way to Cinnabar Island. Not only is it home to the 7th gym, but it also gives us 2 more encounters. I decided to make an exception to the usual 1 Pokemon per area rule for this challenge, since Miralax the Kabuto and Tum's the Aerodactyl aren't available anywhere else, but both found themselves in C tier. Now, on paper, our team matches up really well into Blaine. However, it's important to note that the water types that pChal put in C tier were put there because they didn't consistently sweep Blaine or Giovanni like most other water types can. So this battle might actually be a bit more interesting than expected. Huh. I guess he got a bad Citra. Normally, we would head straight to the 8th gym back in Vermilion City, but there's still 2 more Pokemon in C tier that we haven't gotten yet. Magmar and Moltres can only be found at Mount Ember, and if you're confused because you don't recognize the name Mount Ember, you would be totally valid because it's located in the Sevi Islands, and the Sevi Islands suck. But it just didn't sit right with me to leave 2 encounters off when we only have about a dozen in total to start with. Plus, Magmar actually has a pretty decent level up moveset, so unfortunately, it looks like we're gonna take a detour to the Sevi Islands. We arrive at the very creatively named One Island, and Bill's friend Celio explains that the PC system on the Sevi Islands isn't connecting to Bill's system in Kanto, so Bill offers to help fix it. Bill also decides that we're his little errand boy and gives us a meteorite to give to his friend who apparently likes rocks or something. Whatever. We go to the just as wonderfully named 2 Island and talk to the man, but he's distressed because his daughter hasn't shown up when he expected her to and doesn't know if she's in danger. He then tells us to go and search where else but the iconic 3 Islands. But names aside for a second, how does he even know that his daughter is on 3 Island? I mean, I imagine he and his daughter probably live there, sure, but what if she's already on 2 Island? Like, how do you know she didn't already land here and then just got distracted or got lost on her way here, you know, like a child might do? God forbid it's something worse than that. Even assuming that he actually got off his lazy ass and already checked everywhere on 2 Island, why the hell would he come back here instead of the place he's telling another child to check? For the time being, all I can do is head to 3 Island and look around. The place is infested by a biker gang who have all been harassing the locals, and of course it falls to me, a random child passing by, to disperse the hooligans. They just have a bunch of coughing and Grimer, so even though they challenge me back to back, Clarendon just chews through them all with Psychic. I need to slow down and take these battles a bit more seriously. Otherwise, I'm gonna end up losing a team member, and at that point, it'll be too late. I'm pretty sure that an explosion from Weezing would secure Coca a kill on any one of my Pokemon. Did you guys know that Magmar's exclusive to Leaf Green? Doesn't even show up in FireRed. So really, we didn't even need to come to the Sevi Islands at all. Ibuprofen finishes the fight after our first casualty of the run. What's especially fucked up is that I can't even put Claritin in the box yet, since the PC system doesn't work. So, until we finish business here, I have to carry around Claritin's corpse and act as if the Vipers didn't just set off a bomb mid-battle. We get pointed in Lostel's direction and explore Berry Forest until we find her. We get jumped by a Hypno that promptly gets stomped into the dirt. Read the room, bro. We're mourning here. Before we finally return Lostel to Mr. Father of the Year, and then can go back to Bill and Celio on One Island. Been out having a good time? What kind of sick motherfucker? After mocking my dead duck, Bill then has the gall to force us back to Cinnabar Island, just to further inconvenience us. Piece of shit. With a heavy heart, I can finally put Claritin to rest. But even if Magmar isn't available, Moltres is. We've already come this far, so we have to return to the Sevi Islands to see this through. A duck for a duck. Will we ever use Prilosec the Moltres? Probably not. Was it worth the trip to the Sevi Islands? With the hellscape that is the Sevi Islands behind us, we can go straight to Viridian City and challenge the gym. 5 stars from Zyrtec later, and we get the final badge while also disbanding a criminal organization. Neat. On the way to Victory Road, we have one last challenge against our rival, starting as always with Pidgeot. I start with Miralax to go for a Rock Slide, which he learned from a move tutor in Rock Tunnel. A miss opens Miralax up to a Feather Dance, so we're not off to a great start. The next Rock Slide connects and Miralax makes up for the miss by scoring a flinch, letting him take the kill with one more Rock Slide next turn. Execute comes in and goes for a Stun Spore as I switch into Ibuprofen. The eggs start charging up a Solar Beam, but Ibuprofen breaks through the paralysis and lands a Flamethrower before it can go off. Next up is F-Tier's ace, Blastoise. And looking at our team, we still don't have a great answer into it. The best I can do is to go into Zyrtec and hit Blastoise with Smokescreens to lower his accuracy. On the switch, Blastoise goes for Rain Dance, letting Zyrtec come in unscathed. After the first Smokescreen, Blastoise hits Zyrtec with a Bite for a decent chunk of health. I stay in for one more turn, which pays off as Blastoise gets poisoned from Seadra's Poison Point after his next Bite. That's great, but I still need to switch to keep Zyrtec from going down. After a moment, I decide to swap in Miralax, who shrugs off a Bite. Blastoise outspeeds and fires off a rain-boosted Water Gun, dealing just under half of Miralax's remaining health. After a bit of Rock Slide damage, the rain stops and Blastoise is in range for another Rock Slide and Poison Tick to knock it out. Miralax has Battle Armor, so he can't be crit. What I didn't account for was Water Gun still being boosted because Blastoise is now in range of Torrent being active. Miralax barely holds on and takes the turtle down, but that was definitely a range to kill. Be that as it may, we still have half a team to fight through, so we're far from being out of the woods. Rhyhorn comes in and a Surf from Miralax would definitely pick up the KO, if I taught him Surf. Putting my poor planning aside, I switch to Robitussin, who eats a Rock Blast and then takes the KO with Bone Meringue. Growlithe comes in next, and despite an attack drop from Intimidate, another Bone Meringue is more than enough to take the pup down. Last up is Alakazam. I switch to Tums as he whiffs a Disable, and then outspeed and take the Psychic down with a critical hit Ancient Power. This battle was good insight into how my team might hold up against a champion battle, and it's clear to me that some changes are definitely needed if we want to avoid failing right at the very end. After scouring for some TMs and some more hard work, grit, and dedication at the game corner, I end up settling on this team. Ibuprofen the Charizard, our starter who fought tooth and nail to beat the first two gym leaders by himself and get us to this point in the run. Robitussin the Marowak, holding her trusty thick club to double her attack stat. Zyrtec the Seadra, who single-handedly swept through both Blaine and Giovanni. Excedrin the Golduck, who has had a complete moveset overhaul. Tums the Aerodactyl, the newest member to join the squad, and finally, Mark. That's right, we're bringing Mark to the Elite Four. With preparations finished and the team assembled, all that's left to do is walk through that door. For the sake of real bucko, the bottom dwellers of pChal's tier list, and most importantly, my ego, I can't afford to fail. Here we go. First up is Lorelei. She leads with a deceptively scary Dugong, while we have Mark leading the charge. Dugong sets up Safeguard as Mark fires off a Thunderbolt to do less damage than I was expecting. I must have messed up my calcs at some point because I thought Thunderbolt was a 2-hit KO, but clearly I was mistaken. Turn 1 of the Elite Four and we're already off the rails. Nevertheless, Mark takes a Surf fairly well and brings Dugong down into range for Lorelei to use one of her full restores. Predicting the heal, I decide to go for Toxic, completely forgetting that she set up Safeguard turn 1. Whoops. An Ice Beam knocks Mark under half and nabs the 10% chance to freeze. This, however, I was prepared for. Before the battle, I gave Mark an Aspear Berry to hold, just in case Lorelei did get a sneaky freeze. That comes in clutch, letting Mark fire off a Thunderbolt for just under half of Dugong's health again. Realizing that her Safeguard is about to run out, I use Protect to stall out the final turn, hoping that she'll go for another Safeguard on the following turn. That's exactly what happens, letting Mark fire off another Thunderbolt for free. That leaves Dugong with just a sliver of health left. I need Mark to be on the field for Cloyster, who Lorelei should send out after Dugong, so switching out here isn't really an option. Mark needs to dodge getting crit or frozen by this Ice Beam here, but tragically gets frozen again. But thaws out immediately and takes out the first of the Elite Four. What a roller coaster of emotions. And just as predicted, Cloyster does come in next. Cloyster's only attacking move is Dive, so if she does go for it, we have Protect to save ourselves from damage. All we need is one turn where Cloyster stays above water to get shocked by a Thunderbolt, which happens immediately as she sets up Hail. But now, with Slowbro on the field, we have a bit of an issue. Bulky water types have been a big issue throughout this whole run, and Mark was supposed to be our answer to them with Thunderbolt and Toxic. Nothing I have that can touch this Slowbro wants to take an Ice Beam nor a Surf, and pivoting through one of my own water types will get whoever comes in after put to sleep by Yawn most likely. Because of my own oversights and planning, I have to stay in with Mark. Mark goes for a Toxic to put Slowbro on a timer, and I forgot about Safeguard again. I'm getting flashbacks to Sabrina. On the free switch, I decide to send in Robitussin, since she won't be needed for the rest of Lorelei's team, and she'll be able to take one Surf because of the level advantage. But Slowbro just goes for Amnesia, so we don't even have to worry about that. Double Edge takes the knockout with Robitussin's Rock Head preventing recoil damage. Next up is Jinx, who is much easier for us to deal with. Ibuprofen comes in on a lovely kiss and gets put to sleep, but his Chesto Berry wakes him up and lets him outspeed and fire off a flamethrower next turn. But of course, Jinx is left with 1 HP and hits our starter with Attract. Lorelei heals Jinx with another full restore as Ibuprofen is immobilized. Thankfully though, he comes to his senses and takes Lorelei's penultimate Pokemon down with an Overheat to ensure we do enough damage this time. The last Pokemon on Lorelei's team is her Ace Lapras. I switch to Excedrin on a Surf, which does minimal damage, and then use Substitute out of panic. A Body Slam doesn't break the sub, so Excedrin goes for Calm Mind, again out of panic. Excedrin's only attacking moves are Surf, which is nullified by Water Absorb, and Ice Beam, which is quad resisted. Even at +6, an Ice Beam would do maybe 20%. Thankfully, I catch myself in my panic before it's too late, and switch into Tums on the resisted Body Slam. He avoids getting paralyzed and goes for Ancient Power, dealing just over half of Lapras' health. I expected Ice Beam or Surf, but instead she fires off a Confuse Ray. It's a close range, but I'm pretty confident that a second Ancient Power will take Lapras out. I just need the opportunity to actually use it. By switching between Excedrin and Tums, I'm hoping to switch in on another Body Slam, which is exactly what happens. Aerodactyl avoids getting paralyzed, though a held Cherry Berry would have cured it anyway. Either way, Tums uses Ancient Power one more time to claim victory over the first of the Elite Four. My sloppy gameplay has already cost me one team member, so I really need to tighten up if I'm gonna make it through this thing. The second elite is Bruno, who starts with Onix against Robitussin. Bonemerang makes quick work of both the first and the second Onix, who falls right after, each of them only doing light damage with Earthquake. Third is Hitmonchan. I don't realize this in the moment, but a Sky Uppercut crit is arranged to kill Robitussin here. Blissfully unaware, I have Robitussin take the Sky Uppercut on the chin and thankfully avoid the crit altogether before taking him down with yet another Bonemerang. So much for tightening up. Bruno's next Pokemon is Hitmonlee, which doesn't have a rock move like his other fighting types. That means that Ibuprofen can come in, unfortunately taking a Mega Kick in the process, and follows up with a Wing Attack that takes the KO thanks to the attack EVs from the very start of the run. Bruno's final Pokemon is his ace, Machamp. Charizard doesn't kill with Wing Attack, and a Rock Tomb will obviously take the KO, so I have to switch here. With Robitussin effectively out of commission, it falls on Zyrtek's shoulders to tank the incoming Rock Tomb. He does so with ease, and now I need to deal with what's most likely an incoming Bulk Up. Machamp outspeeds and does indeed go for Bulk Up, but Zyrtek fires off a Surf. It does just enough to proc Machamp's Citrus Berry, bringing him just over 50% again. Now is when the plan gets a little sketchy. With Machamp weakened, Ibuprofen can come in on a resisted Cross Chop, get knocked into Blaze range, and take the kill with a boosted Flamethrower. However, if he goes for Bulk Up, Ibuprofen is going to have to hit a 90% accurate Overheat instead. Bruno, however, chooses hidden option C and goes for Scary Face, even though he already outsped Seadra. This sucks, since now Machamp outspeeds Charizard and kills with Rock Tomb again, so I have to make the switches again, hoping he doesn't catch me by surprise again with an untimely Bulk Up. Thankfully, Rock Tomb comes out, and now Zyrtek is definitely in range for Cross Chop to kill. A switch back to Ibuprofen actually baits Cross Chop this time, doing a scary amount of damage, but Ibuprofen clutches up and scorches Machamp to a crisp, defeating the second member of the Elite Four. Agatha is a much easier matchup for our team, but still not someone to take lightly. This time, Tums takes the lead against the first of 2 Gengars. Ancient Power does solid damage, but gives Gengar the chance to set up a double team. I stupidly didn't teach Tums Aerial Ace despite the TM for it just rotting away in my bag, but he proves that he doesn't need it as a second Ancient Power hits true, knocking Gengar out. Next is Arbok, who lowers Tums' attack with Intimidate, letting her survive an Earthquake. However, she uses that precious turn to just use Screech, allowing for an easy KO in the next turn. Golbat comes in, but because I didn't restore Ancient Power's PP, I only have one left to use. Tums' last Ancient Power does good damage as Golbat retaliates with Confuse Ray. Aerodactyl shakes off the confusion with a Person Berry, but the attack drop from Intimidate starts to bear fruit now as Golbat survives Wing Attack with a sliver of HP. Taking advantage of Agatha using a full restore, I bring out Zyrtek. Golbat misses Air Cutter and goes down to an Ice Beam, forcing Agatha to bring out her trump card. a second Gengar. With Gengar's low attack and Seadra's surprisingly good defense, Zyrtec can pretty handily 1v1 Agatha's ace. Sludge Bomb does respectable damage before a Hydro Pump comes close to a one-shot, but just narrowly misses out. Gengar's Citrus Berry brings her out of healing range, so Zyrtec can tank one more attack and then just take the KO with Surf. However, Zyrtec's Quick Claw skips a step and lets him snag the KO before Gengar can move, and then does so again against Agatha's final Haunter, bringing us to the last Elite Four member. Lance starts the battle off with the worst Gyarados ever conceived. Excedrin takes full advantage of this and immediately sets up a substitute. The only move Gyarados has that takes the sub out in one hit is Hyper Beam, which would give us another turn anyway as he recharges. To abuse this, Excedrin swaps between using Substitute and Calm Mind, getting 4 Calm Minds off with the help of the Citrus Berry he's holding before getting too low on health to make a substitute. 2 Ice Beams take care of Gyarados, which then leads to Lance making an absolute embarrassment of himself. Since this game's code is held together with duct tape and spit, Lance's AI leads him to send out both of his Dragonairs and his Ace Dragonite before his Aerodactyl. Golduck outspeeds all of Lance's dragons and takes kill after kill with Ice Beam until Lance is down to his last Pokemon. But it's too little too late, as it would take a miracle for Lance to pull through now. Excedrin swaps out into Zyrtec as Aerodactyl tries for an Omni Boost with Ancient Power and fails. Poison Point triggering doesn't matter, but it is certainly funny. Wing Attack does a chunk of damage before Zyrtec finishes the fight off with a Surf, marking an end to the Elite Four. All that remains is the champion, F tier. One last battle to determine what these 12 encounters really are. Are they really the bottom of the barrel? Strictly inferior encounters compared to the other options? Is Charizard really the worst encounter in Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green? Let's find out. The battle starts the same way it always does. F tier sends out Pidgeot. Zyrtec takes center stage as he goes face to face with the oversized bird. An Aerial Ace tickles Zyrtec, immediately triggering Poison Point. An Ice Beam does devastating damage in return, leaving Pidgeot knocking on death's door. F tier uses his first full restore of the fight, curing the poison and healing all of Pidgeot's HP. Since our rival clearly didn't like his bird being poisoned, Zyrtec offers him a freeze instead. Not that it matters, as Quick Claw lets Seadra put the chicken out of its misery before it even gets the chance to thaw. Exeggutor coming in forces Seadra to swap out into Charizard, who tanks the resisted Giga Drain with ease despite the crit. Respecting Exeggutor's bulk, Ibuprofen launches a full-powered Overheat to secure the one-shot. With 2 Mons down already, F tier sends out his own starter. Blastoise has finally upgraded from Water Gun to Hydro Pump in preparation for this battle, so I'll need to tread carefully. Excedrin comes in on the first of 5 Hydro Pumps, taking a meaningful chunk of damage in doing so. Hoping to bait out Bite, I swap again to Zyrtec. The initial plan was to poison Blastoise with Mark and whittle away at its health, but that plan went out the window with Mark. Instead of Bite, Blastoise sets up the rain, powering up his already scary Hydro Pumps. Without a reliable check to the bulky water type, it's clear that this situation is gonna get bloody. Hydro Pump is a roll to kill Zyrtec right now, and it's a roll that I have to make to try and land a smokescreen. Against all odds though, Zyrtec's Quick Claw triggers again, letting him land a smokescreen that just might save his life. But a rain-boosted Hydro Pump lands all the same, leaving Seadra alive with 8 HP. With such low health, Zyrtec is baiting Blastoise into using a random move, so switching still isn't safe. Unfortunately, Seadra has to stay in until he either dies or runs Blastoise out of Hydro Pumps. Out of sheer spite at being placed in C tier, Seadra seems determined to make that latter a reality, dodging the 3rd Hydro Pump and launching yet another smokescreen. Realistically, both Seadra and I know that we're just biding our time, and the chances of him getting out of this alive is incredibly slim. So, as one last glorious fuck you to the bulky turtle, Zyrtec's Quick Claw triggers again. A 3rd smokescreen is Zyrtec's swan song as death finally catches up to him in the form of Bite, though he can rest easy given his efforts to prove his tiering wrong. Tums takes to the field, launching off an Ancient Power to chip away at the behemoth's health before tragically falling to a Hydro Pump despite 3 accuracy drops. Robitussin comes in to try and bait the final Hydro Pump, but Blastoise resets the rain as I swap out to Excedrin. I take advantage of the free switch to set up a substitute, aiming to nullify the damage of his final Hydro Pump. but the Hydro Pump never comes. Blastoise goes for Bite, but Zyrtek's Parting Gift causes him to miss. With Excedrin safe behind a substitute, he can start using Calm Mind to set up. On his first one, Blastoise misses another Bite, and as Excedrin continues to use Calm Mind, and Blastoise continues to miss every single bite, I slowly start to realize that it's finally over. Ice Beam takes Blastoise to low enough health that he eats his Citrus Berry before Excedrin uses his own Rain against him and takes him down with a Surf. Alakazam comes out to set up a Reflect before falling to a Surf as well. Rhydon hits the field before swiftly meeting the same fate. F-Tier has just one Pokemon left. As Arcanine comes out, something just feels wrong. Like this shouldn't be the way that this all ends. Excedrin uses Calm Mind, allowing Arcanine to use Roar, bypassing his substitute and forcing a random Pokemon to come out between Ibuprofen and Robitussin. Ibuprofen gets dragged out.
Charizard is unironically the worst Pokemon for a FireRed Leaf Green Nuzlocke.
Mega Kick doesn't do much damage while Reflect is up, but honestly it's crazy that we were even able to keep it on him for the entire Nuzlocke.
Not only does this Pokemon not contribute anything valuable at any point of the game, you are actively sabotaging your run by picking it.
Charizard opts for Overheat instead, doing respectable damage for a resisted hit.
Not only did you pick up a Pokemon that you won't even bring to the Elite Four,
Reflect wears off.
There's no way to get past Misty with only a Charmeleon.
And Charizard takes a moment to remind everybody just how we got here in the first place. So, is it possible to complete a FireRed Nuzlocke using only pChal's lowest tiered Pokemon? Well, depends how strict you want to be about Misty, but I'd say so. This Elite Four run was far from clean, and I was bailed out by RNG a number of times, but it was also one of the most chaotically fun runs I've ever done. Shout out to pChal who made the original tier list video, and of course Real Bucko who came up with the idea for the challenge and made the initial attempt. Both of their videos will be linked down below. I think this is the part where I tell you to subscribe or something, but whatever. This is my first time making a video for YouTube, so I hope it wasn't too messy, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if there's anything that I've learned from doing this challenge, it's that it's literally never worth it to go to the Sevi Islands. Fuck that place.